In the 2019 classic The Irishman, Dominic Lombardozzi played the role of a guy named Fat Tony, one of the real gangsters that inspired the movie. Keep watching to learn about the life of Fat Tony, one of the most popular gangsters of New York. Despite being one of the most known gangsters in pop culture, many people do not know that Fat Tony actually died in prison while serving a sentence of 170 years. What did he do to deserve such a sentence? Was he one of the gangsters who refused to help the authorities? In this video, we will take a look at the life of Fat Tony and how he fell into the waiting hands of the law. Like many other gangsters, Salerno chose a life of crime at a young age. While still young, he was constantly arrested for gambling, loan sharking, and fighting, escaping stints in prison, all thanks to his allegiance to the Luciano family, which later changed to the Genovese family. Tony also belonged to a street gang named the 116th Street Crew, led by a certain man named Trigger Mike, who also worked for the Luciano family. Together, these two slowly went up the family ranks by heading illegal operations all over Harlem. However, in 1948, Trigger Mike was involved in a murder case, and in order to escape the law, he fled to Florida. Naturally, Fat Tony took over the gang. In 1959, Fat Tony had become successful in the racket operation and loan sharking business, and a report the same year suggested that he was a financial backer for a boxing title fight in New York. But due to Tony's growing influence, there were no charges leveled against him. A few years later, Fat Tony began controlling the largest racket operation in all of New York, with his figures racking up to $50 million annually. But it was impossible to hide something of this magnitude, and it didn't take long for the FBI to start investigating him. As the investigation advanced, he was accused of running an illegal loan shark network, which was believed to rake in around $1 million every year. In response, Tony employed the services of a lawyer, Roy Cohn, who unfortunately could not save him from the 6-month sentencing he eventually got. In early 1981, a few weeks after his release from prison, Fat Tony suffered a stroke which forced him to stay in his estate. However, despite his health problems, this didn't stop the gangster from being active in the Genovese family. And after the death of Frank Thierry, Genovese's front boss, Fat Tony was finally handed the mantle of leadership. Naturally, this new position exposed Tony to the authorities once again, and he soon became the subject of a highly secretive government investigation. However, the gangsters in the New York Mafia circle knew the truth. Fat Tony was in fact not the real boss of the Genovese family. He was only a frontman for the real boss. The real boss was Vincent the Chin Gigante, a man known for his vicious style of leadership. Tony was bait for the authorities, and they had eagerly swallowed it. But only 4 years later, the authorities were finally able to pin Fat Tony and other influential New York mobsters in the highly publicized Mafia commission trial. Due to how Fat Tony was perceived in the media, and partly due to the fact that Fortune magazine named him America's top gangster, he was the lead defendant in the Mafia commission trial. Eventually, Tony and the other defendants were found guilty, even though they pleaded not guilty and sentenced to 100 years in prison in 1985. But this was not all for Fat Tony. In a separate trial, he was accused of racketeering and having secret control of various projects, including the Trump Tower and the construction of Mount Sinai School of Medicine. He was also accused of using illegal means to help Roy Lee Williams win the national presidency of the Teamsters Union. Again, Fat Tony pleaded not guilty to these charges. However, in 1988, he was sentenced to an additional 70 years in prison. In addition to this, he was ordered to return half of the money he made from his racket operations, which was estimated to be over $30 million. At this time, Fat Tony's health was failing him again, and in 1989 he was moved to a medical center, where he remained until his death in 1992. He was 80 and had suffered another mild stroke. Fat Tony was considered by many as an old-fashioned gangster. He was close to outsiders, settled fights when he could, and refused to sell drugs. He also avoided the flashy lifestyle that most other mobsters lived by. In fact, his respect for the old mafia ways is one of the reasons he got a sentence of over 100 years, as he refused to become an informant for the FBI. Do you think this is why he remains respected in the Mafia world? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Thanks for watching.